Hello, Hayes. I'm writing to you from the lowest point in my life. 2 weeks ago, my boyfriend of 4 years broke up with me, just days after we started fertility treatment. I had no warning signs and was completely blindsided. Our life was peaceful, comfortable, and safe. I felt loved and seen, and I thought he had healed my anxious attachment. I moved for him and really worked on integrating myself in his community and friend group. Even the infertility was dealt with gracefully. He was the one who said our plan B was to get a dog and live a happy life, and that we would be fine as long as we were together. I believed him. Long story short, he's in love with his best friend, the only girl in the friend group. I've never been suspicious of the two of them. The girl's become one of my best friends, too. She knew about my infertility and supported me. Them being a thing never even crossed my mind until he told me. So now I feel like an idiot. I went from thinking I was going to finally get to have a baby with the love of my life to being 34, single, and about to live on my own again. They're together now. The girl who I thought was my friend has not reached out to me, not even to say sorry. My ex says he's sorry and feels guilty, but I don't think he understands the extent of what he did to me. The trauma of feeling so safe and having the person you trust the most discard you like that with no warning. Anyway, I'll work through all of this with my therapist, and I'm lucky to have wonderful friends who take care of me. What I would like your help with, Hayes, is how to redefine my life going forward. Everyone says that when you go through a breakup, you should focus on your own needs and wants. The thing is, I know exactly what I want. I want what I had with him, what I thought I had with him. How it ended does not change the fact that I was truly so happy in our relationship, even if part of that turned out to be an illusion. When I was with him, I focused on my spiritual journey. I honed my creativity and my fitness goals. I started my master's. He never held me back. There's no sense of freedom now, just loss. Now I'm torn between knowing exactly how good life with a significant other can be and craving to build a new life like that, and knowing that this wound will take a long time to heal. I know this will affect the way I love and trust moving forward, and I want to take my time before I look for love again. What do I do, Hayes? How do I let go not only of the man I loved, but the life I loved? Yours, Blindsided. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that you're going through this, that this happened. Of course you feel blindsided. It's a shock. This is a shocking experience. And of course you feel blindsided and confused. And yes, I agree that this is one of those moments in your life that will change the way you see things. And I don't think it will be for the worse, you know? Even though it's not that bad. I sometimes feel torn between saying sometimes I feel torn sometimes trying to say that a good thing can come out of a bad thing, because sometimes bad things just happen and there isn't really a silver lining. And yes, you learn to survive, and maybe there are things that come out of it that you are grateful for, but it doesn't always mean that we're grateful for the thing to have happened. Like, wouldn't it be better if we could learn lessons and get to where we need to be and find our safety and our happiness and not have to experience trauma, not have to experience betrayal or grief or sadness or, all of the words. I'm honored that you wrote to me. Thank you for telling me what's going on. That's number one. I think it can be so vulnerable to admit something like this to somebody else, not because I think you have anything to be ashamed of, but I can put myself in your shoes. I can put myself in your shoes and think back on times in my life when I've been so surprised by something, and I felt, as you mentioned that you feel like an idiot. The situations in my life where I have felt like an idiot, it can be really hard to ask for help, to open up to other people. But that is exactly what we need to do. We need to open up to the right people who can sit with us in our feelings and remind us that we are not. Look, you do have agency here, and there's a balance between wallowing and feeling sorry and victimized and, I don't even like that word. Oh, erase it from the transcript. There's a balance between feeling, sitting, woe is me, sitting in the very deserved sadness, and then stepping out of it and realizing that you are in control and it's going to be okay. There's a balance here, but for right now, I think it is, especially given how fresh this is, 2 weeks ago, I'm sure you're getting a lot in your life of people telling you exactly how fucked up this is. So I don't need to add to that noise. But anything you are feeling about the wrongness of this, I want to just validate you in that. And we're going to move on to you and moving forward. Because again, I'm sure you're getting a lot of that in your life. And I want to focus on your question. I'm so impressed by your question. I'm so inspired by your question. The way that you're thinking about, the way you're acknowledging that, yes, this is going to impact the way you see the world moving forward. But also, there's something so hopeful about what you're asking me. I can sense, even if you don't feel it now, I can feel in your letter that I can feel the part of you that knows it's going to be okay. And sometimes I think we need other people to remind us of that. Both I can remind you, you can borrow my belief for you that you are going to find love again and you are going to find all the things you're looking for. But sometimes it's helpful to have people remind us in our own words where they see that we still have hope. Sometimes our own hope is so hard to find, but I see your hope in this letter. I see your hope in the way that you're acknowledging that right now you still want what you had. I think there's a lot of hope in your honesty, and I'm inspired by your hope, and it gives me even more confidence that you are going to find your way out of this. It's funny, that advice, when you go through a breakup, that you need to focus on your own needs and wants. What does that mean? Like, what does that really mean? I think when people say that, focus on yourself, they mean that they want you to put yourself first, that they want you to, I think sometimes people mean it in like they say it because they don't know how to sit in the discomfort, and suggesting things like just have fun, get into your hobbies, focus on work. Like that's all advice that wants somebody to rush through the sadness and get to the next part. And I think it's very well intentioned, but it can feel kind of confusing sometimes, because what does focusing on yourself mean when you're struggling and when you're blindsided and when, like you said, your heart and your head haven't really caught up with each other yet? You still want the life you had 2 weeks ago. Of course you do. Even if intellectually you understand that your boyfriend was in love with somebody else and the relationship, not all parts of the relationship were exactly what you thought. Like you still, for 4 years, you were with somebody and you loved him and you felt loved by him. And of course there's routine there, like separate from just your heart, there's routine there. And it's going to be hard to separate from that. Your own needs and wants. You want what you had with him, what you thought you had with him. It's really interesting. Like you said that when the fact that the relationship ended, even if some of it was an illusion, it doesn't change the fact that you were happy in it. I think a lot of relationships are in our life to show us more of what we want and more of what we don't want. And it's hard to admit about your particular boyfriend at this exact moment, because I do feel angry. I feel angry at the way he's gone about this situation and the way that he's betrayed your trust. And I feel angry that you're having to experience this. And I don't doubt that some of the ways you felt in your relationship were very real, and that he was a good boyfriend to you, and that he did make you feel safe and loved, and he did encourage all of the growth you had. And maybe, there's like all the different stages of grief that I imagine you will go through in this experience. Maybe at this point, there is some value in like connecting with your gratitude for the ways you positively changed in this relationship, but trying to recognize your independence in those situations. So for example, you said when you were with him, you focused on your spiritual journey, you honed your creativity, you got your master's, you started your master's, you focus on your fitness goals. Like he was a partner to you in that, he supported you there, but you did it. You did it. And maybe there is something about him and about the relationship you had that got you in a headspace where you were confident to do those things, but you were the one who made all of that happen, baby. Like he didn't get you. He wasn't lifting the weights for you. He wasn't making your art. He was not studying. Yes, he was a supporter. And yes, we do need supporters to make any of our dreams happen. But you did that. You did that. And You could do it alone, yes, but you'll also do it again you will also feel the support of a partner in your life who has some of the qualities that this boyfriend had, but doesn't have the ones that weren't up to snuff for you. You said that you thought he healed your anxious attachment. Such an interesting phrase. I don't know if another person can heal your anxious attachment. I think you heal your anxious attachment. And sometimes a relationship with a specific type of person encourages you to heal it. Maybe it's the context in which you're like, oh, I got to work on this because I want to be the best version of me for this person. I want to be a good partner here. But you heal you. You heal you. Another person isn't like a medication that like you can ingest their special sauce and then suddenly you're healed. A person is like people don't work like that. And I think right now, understandably, you're thinking back on your relationship and like all of these wonderful things that he did to you, all of these ways that he healed you. I'm sure that he and everything that is great about him played a role in all of the growth you had. And I don't want to take away from, I want to like tread the line both in how I'm speaking with you and also in how you speak to yourself about this. I want to tread the line of like of giving him credit where credit is due, but also not giving him too much power and too much credit because, well, one, I don't know him. So I don't know him. Maybe I would meet him and I'd be like, girl, give this guy zero credit, but I don't know him. And I'm going to take your word for it that there was a lot of good here. And I think what's really confusing about real life is that it's not black and white. Real life is not black and white. And sometimes you hear stories like this and our instinct is to be black and white. Like, what the fuck? This dude did what? He did what with who? How could he do this to you after you started fertility treatment? And all of that is well and good, but it doesn't like take into account your experience right now, like your experience in this relationship. And I don't want to do too much too soon. And that's part of why I think part of your grief right now might be grieving the real love that you had and the positive experiences you had with him and holding space for the fact that you did a lot of this on your own. Yes, with his support, but you did it on your own and you'll do it on your own again. As much as you can right now, I think it's about having trust in yourself that all of the progress you've made in your life, so much of what you're proud of yourself, yes, it was done while you were in this relationship, but it was done because of you. You have something that he can't take from you, your trust in yourself. Now, trust is definitely a key theme here because I see how this situation could really impact the way that you trust other people. And I do think that that's going to be a big journey for you. It's really interesting, though, the ways that like a betrayal or the loss of somebody you love in some way can affect our relationships, because it doesn't always affect our relationships in the most obvious way. Like a really obvious way that this could go down is that you now distrust any men with female friends, or you're just completely distrusting of that type of relationship. That would be an obvious impact and an understandable one. Though I don't know if it's like, I would completely understand you having that feeling and that reaction, but I don't know if that is the best takeaway. I don't know if that will be the best takeaway, but I could totally see how you could go down that route. You might just be mistrusting of people telling you that they love you in general because he told you he loves you, but meanwhile, he was also or was in love with his best friend. Those would be some obvious ways that this could impact the way you trust others, but we don't know. Like when I look at how some of my when I look at some of my own relationships in my life that have really like screwed with me or have made an impact on me, the ways that they show up now, even things I'm going back years and years and years, some early childhood things, like the ways that it shows up in my life now are sometimes surprising. Like it's not always the most obvious impact. And this moment in your life could certainly be a before and after. This moment could certainly be something that you deal with for a long time to come. And 20 years from now, when you're, dealing with a very normal problem in your marriage, it comes back to this experience. Look, it could be. And it also could not be. It also could be something that you look back at and you're like, oh, you could equate this with, I don't know, I'm thinking of my own heartbreak and my own breakups and my own relationship grief I've had. And some of them stand out as major. And then some of them are like, oh, yeah, I did learn something there, but it's not like it changed the way I see the world. But this is quite a betrayal. We can't predict how this is going to impact you, but I do agree that it will impact you, and I'm proud of you. I think you're absolutely spot on that this is going to take time, and it's going to take some working through, and it's going to take patience with yourself and seeing how this unfolds, how it unfolds in yourself, and what are the ways that you feel yourself like instinctively reacting. You ask how to redefine your life going forward, and I want to encourage you not to put a timeline on that process, and also to let it be abstract. I know that for the last several years, you've had like a meaning or a story to your life. You found a partner, you were dealing with infertility, but now you have a plan. You had a backup plan that you felt good about. Like, it sounds like you had a story. You thought you had figured it out. And God is crushing when that story changes, especially if you're up against time constraints. I don't think time constraints as in you may feel pressure with your biological clock or with your community. You might feel, if you want to be a mom, you might be feeling pressure about making that happen quickly. You didn't say that verbatim, but I'm picking up on the cues when you talk about you thought you were having a baby with the love of your life and now you're 34 single and living alone. I know and I understand how devastating and scary it can be to feel like you're starting over, and how a solution to that is to redefine things, like give yourself a new story. And, I was going to say you don't need a new story, but I also do believe that that the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves are really helpful. So what could this new story be like? Yeah, I'm changing my mind kind of in real time. Like, what could this new story for you be like? And it doesn't need to be aligned with what your friends are telling you. Like when people tell you focus on your needs and wants, it's okay if your needs and wants include wanting to find a partner and wanting to be in love again and wanting to feel safe and secure in a relationship. I think that's okay. I don't think you need to completely pivot and be like, I want to find my independence on my own. I think that that's the subtext of being in a safe and happy and trusting relationship, is having that trust within yourself. But I think for right now, it's okay if it's like, I want to heal from this experience, find trust in myself, understand what my blind spots might have been in this past relationship, feel gratitude for what it gave me, and feel gratitude for the way it ended, because this clearly wasn't right. This clearly wasn't right. And my goal here is still to find a partner who loves me and who I love and who I can have a family with. I think that is that's okay for that to be your story. And if what I just said doesn't resonate with you, like, you can tell your own story of what your needs and wants are. But I don't want you to be ashamed if your needs and wants include right now still wanting part of what that old life was. Look, there's going to be a lot of layers to unpacking this experience. We have the betrayal from your boyfriend. There's the betrayal from the friend. And then there's also the betrayal with yourself, which perhaps is going to be one of the harder parts of this to work through. The feelings of, what was I missing? What was I missing? How did I not see this? What does it say about me? And that is a hard journey ahead. And I think this new story is going to be about this new story. At the end of it, you're going to talk about how this time in your life, you found your trust in yourself again. You found your trust in yourself and you found your trust in others. How do I let go not only of the man I loved, but the life I loved? You don't need to let it go completely. Time is going to heal this. Time is going to heal this. But you can take things from that chapter in your life with you into the future. You get to decide what you bring with you and what you leave. Everything you love about yourself, all of the things you've learned and that you've grown, like, take that stuff with you. You don't need to let it all go. But what we're letting go is him. And maybe what we're letting go once you get into this with your therapist or with yourself or maybe with your friends, maybe you let go of your own blind spots. There's like this really interesting intersection that I've been thinking about between being blindsided and having blind spots. And sometimes when we feel blindsided, look, there's nuance and there's specific situations. So everybody's situation is going to be different. But sometimes when we feel blindsided, we put all of the onus on the person who blindsided us without really thinking about our own blind spots. Now later, like in my life, times when I've been blindsided or when I felt blindsided or surprised, I almost always can look back and see the red flags or see the signs that I ignored. And I can take some responsibility in being like, oh, I ignored that because I really wanted it to be normal, or I really wanted this situation to work out. I really wanted to have my happy ending, and I thought the situation was going to give it to me. So I held on for dear life. And I looked the other way. I don't think that doesn't make it my fault that this thing happened, but it means that I had blind spots. We all have blind spots. We are human beings. We don't need to be ashamed of our blind spots, but it can be helpful to admit we have them. I think you can have blind spots in a loving, happy, healthy relationship. And maybe part of picking a partner is that the two of you can help each other work through your blind spots. And the goal is that you choose somebody to be with who you trust. So when they help you fill in those blind spots, like you trust that they know what's best. You trust them. You might have had some blind spots here. And we don't need to get into those now. I think it might be too raw to like get into all of these blind spots now. But I think it will be encouraging for you once you can really think about what am I trying to say here? Because I really don't want you to feel like me even bringing this up is me blaming you at all, because I'm not. And maybe I'm rushing ahead because I know the healing process. Like I know there are times in my life when I am not fucking there to hear about my fucking blind spot. So you can just shut the fuck right up with that. You know what I mean? Like healing takes time, and it can take years sometimes for myself to be able to be like, oh, I see what I was doing there. Maybe what I want to say to you directly, like, you focusing on your needs and wants. You want the life you had with him. It also sounds to me like you want to be a mom. It sounds to me maybe like you want to be a mom. And that might be something you want. I'm saying that so plainly, and I'm saying that I'm just repeating myself there because I'm thinking through the context. I'm thinking through what I'm saying to you and if that's real. But it sounds to me like that's important to you. I can't really ignore the fertility details here. Both the infertility and then starting the fertility treatment. And it sounds like this is something you want. I know you wanted it with him, and it's okay for you to still want it with him. But I encourage you to let that desire kind of float to the top. You want to be a mom. Yes, you wanted it with him, but it's also something that you want as an individual, and you want it with the right partner. Maybe sitting with that and leaving some room in your grief for that might help you let go of the man you loved. Like, what are the other areas of grief that are so prominent in this breakup, in this betrayal? Like, can we raise those to the top? Not obviously, in your letter, like the betrayal from him is so prominent, and that's like layer one. So I totally understand why that's the most prominent. But like, what might happen if you let the other grief rise to the top too? The grief about the fertility challenges you've been having. One, the fact that now you feel like you're starting from square one, square zero, and you have to make new decisions about what your journey to being a mom might be like. Maybe there's the friend betrayal. I mean, that's fucking crazy. I know you said that you have great friends, so that I'm so glad, and I am so glad that your friends are there to hold you and support you through this. But like, it's fucked up. And I wonder, the mom thing though, like I just wonder what letting that grief rise might be extremely painful, but it also could be useful in realizing that this isn't just about the man. Like decentering him specifically from your grief might actually be helpful, because you might see the very real ways that some of your pain isn't about him. Some of it, of course, Some of it, of course, is, but not all of it is. And separating it a little bit might be helpful for your healing, if at all possible. I do want to say that I think it's such a wonderful quality of yours that you were not suspicious of the two of them. Like, look, without knowing the details, maybe there are things that you should have, maybe there are things that in the future you can be aware of, and maybe there are things that you looked the other way for, those blind spots as we were talking about. But by and large, I think your heart and the way you trust others is one of your best qualities, and I would hate to see that be lost in this experience. And I know there are going to be moments while you process all of this where you're like, wow, I'm a big fucking idiot. I'm a big fucking idiot. And you know what? Maybe there are some ways that you'll take accountability down the line, but I don't want you to lose your trust. I don't want you to lose the way that you see the best in other people. I don't want this to harden you to the point where you don't accept love and where you don't embrace the way that other people love each other too, and the way that other people experience real, true friendship. I know that's easier said than done and harder, but I just want, in case no one said that to you, I want you to know that I think it's great. Like, I think that down the line, maybe you will find somebody who has female friends and it's totally fine and they're real, genuine friendships. And you don't need to be worried. I understand if that is going to feel triggering for you in the future and you might want to avoid it. And I could not tell you, I couldn't tell you otherwise. It's your right to feel protective after this happened. But I would hate for this to take away that softness in you. I want you to know it's going to be okay. And I know that can feel like those words can feel empty when you're in the middle of it. But you are going to get through this. You are going to get through this. I promise you. You can borrow my belief if you don't feel it for now. The most important thing to remember is that the story is always changing. You don't need to define what this moment is right now. You can create a draft of the story, right? You can say what your needs and wants are right now. And you know what? It's okay if at the moment your needs and wants still include his name in them. But you get to edit that story next week and down the line. And the story is there. The story you're writing is there to guide you. It's not meant to keep you imprisoned. It's not meant to keep you imprisoned in the past. I'm excited for you to think about what you need and want. And yes, what you need and want does include love. It does include love. That's nothing to be ashamed of. It'll take however long it's going to take. Maybe it won't take as long as you think. Maybe it'll take extra long and it'll feel fine because that's the amount of time it's supposed to take and you're prepared for that. But you will find love again. Your story will include love. I believe that. I truly do. Okay. Thank you so much for writing. If anyone listening wants to send in a letter, it's hellohayesbusiness@gmail.com. That's hellohayesbusiness@gmail.com. And we're in part 2. Hello, everybody. Brian and I just got back on Saturday night, very late, from a golfing to camping trip. I did not golf. I have absolutely zero interest in golfing, though I do really like riding the golf cart in situations when I've been allowed, when I can ride in the cart with Brian and read while he golfs. Love that. Love that. Brian says golf is a very elitist sport. Yes. He describes it in a very earnest way. What he loves about golf is that it's just like going for a walk in nature with your friends. And I think that that is very sweet. And when he describes it that way, I can see why he likes it. Brian is also good at golf and an athletic human being. And I just don't have the interest. People always ask me with how much he likes it. Like, are you ever going to take lessons? Are you interested? And I'm just not. I think it's okay for us to have different interests. It doesn't mind. I don't mind how long golfing takes. He also is very, is respectful the right word? He always asks me if it's okay for him to golf. He's never thrusting the golfing schedule onto me or onto our life. I also encourage him to golf. I like spending time by myself and with my friends. And when he does go golf, it's like a great 4 or 5 hour chunk where I get to do my thing. I do understand though, I have talked with people who have husbands who golf. When they have a baby, sometimes that's become a little bit of an issue in the relationship. The golfing, the being gone for 5 hours suddenly doesn't work as well. I don't know. Who knows how I'd feel if I have a baby and that's the scenario. I kind of imagine that I'll feel kind of similarly. Sometimes I'll be annoyed by it. Sometimes I want him to be home and helpful. But I think Brian will be an incredibly helpful, present dad. And I don't need to worry about that golfing stuff yet. Anyway, we golfed in Pebble Beach. He golfed in Pebble Beach. Fun little fact. This is actually going to be extremely boring for you. I don't need to go over this with you. Pebble Beach is in the Monterey Peninsula, just north of Carmel by the Sea. And I have to say that that is maybe one of the most gorgeous places I have ever seen in my entire life. Now, I am going to see more of the country on this drive from Los Angeles to New York. So I may be prepared. I am prepared to change my mind. Perhaps I will say something in Utah or in Colorado. Some of you sent me a message that there's a place in South Dakota that's incredibly beautiful. I imagine that every state has beautiful scenery. I think I'm a sucker for ocean. Like I posted I posted a video, like a little vlog of Francis and I walking with some voiceover where I was talking about moving, and you can see some of the ocean imagery there. They're just like the rocks. Are they even rocks jutting out from the ground? Whatever they are, the earth jutting out from the ground and the way the Pacific like smashes on the rocks here, the blue, the hue of the ocean. It was just a majestic couple of days. And then we drove to Big Sur and we did glamping for a night. Glamping because there was the tent already built and it did have an incredibly comfortable queen-sized bed in it. Did not have a bathroom. There was a bathhouse a little bit down the road, but way too far to walk in the middle of the night. So we were absolutely like peeing outside of our tent. We did it through Alila at the Ventana campground. I highly recommend that if you live in California or if you don't live in California but you want to go camping. It was excellent. Our camping, it was I think it was $200 for the night. It was either 200 or 220 for one night. You can go into the Alila. Alila is one of the really fancy hotels in Big Sur. There's two hotels. There's Alila Ventana, which I believe is a Hyatt property, and then there's Post Ranch Inn, and they're directly across the street, but these hotels are crazy. I think Post Ranch is like, it's all inclusive, but it's over $2,000 a night, maybe $3,000 a night. It does look absolutely sick. Bucket list item. Would love to do it one day. We were not going to do that on this trip. But Alila has the hotel, the resort, and then it also has the glamping. But in the glamping, it's going to give you a little rundown in case anybody's actually interested. So there's the glamping tents all the way in the back. You drive down a mile road. But before you get to the glamping, there's also just regular campsites where you can go and pitch your tent. And the forest was absolutely gorgeous. I was a little bit worried about Francis. They had said that there was an extra, it was like a $20 pet fee, but if your dog is barking a lot, it would be $250. Don't know how they would know that. Somebody would probably have to complain, or maybe it would be like egregious barking. I was really curious about how Frances was going to be. She was great. Like barked a little bit when it was really late and we could hear the other people walking to their tent. Our area was very private. Pro tip, if you do want to do the Alila camping, when you call, ask for the tents that are more removed. If you're physically able, you do have to walk up a little bit. There's a little bit of a hike involved to get to the tent. And by a hike, I mean maybe a baseball throw uphill. So many of the tents, you can drive your car right up and then just like walk into the tent. You park right outside of it. Where we were, we had to park and then walk up a little hill with our stuff. I loved this though, because our tent was truly private. Like I could change and be naked outside the tent and not worry about anybody seeing me. Other tents, not the case. So if you want privacy, call and request the tents that are after the little hike up. She would bark a little bit when other people were walking. There were like 3 other tents in our area. She barked a little bit then. We really noticed something interesting about Frances, and dog people curious if this is something you've dealt with. So Frances does have guard dog breeds in her. Like she has German Shepherd in her. She is an extremely friendly, gentle dog. She rarely barks. She's fine. The 2 things that she barks at now and where she gets like, where she barks and sort of her protective energy comes out. One, if we are somewhere and there are small children running by her and like invading our space, she still gets freaked out by small kids running, which I do kind of understand. Like I also don't like small children running. Our trainer recommended that we spend a little bit more time taking her to a playground. And first we'll like sit outside the playground in our car just so she can get used to the sounds and what it looks like. And then we can, take her on the leash and sit across the street and have her get used to it. That all makes sense. Like she used to be really scared of the garbage trucks, and we did those same types of strategies, letting her hear the trucks, see the trucks in a safe place. Now she's totally fine near garbage trucks. But she doesn't like small kids running. And her she'll mostly just like, she'll bark. She'll bark a lot, and that's what she'll do. But she also doesn't like it when Brian and I are alone and there's no one there, and then somebody comes out of nowhere and enters the space. So if we're on a hike and there's lots of people, no problem. But when we've been on a hike, like a few weeks ago, we did a Santa Barbara hike and we were eating lunch in a really remote spot and we hadn't seen a person for 25 minutes. When all of a sudden a person came out, she then got up and barked. And her bark, she has different barks. If you have a dog, like your dog's different bark. So she doesn't like that. And it's such an interesting behavior because I like that she wants to protect us. It's if I were alone and I was in a dangerous situation, like I would want my dog to bark like that if somebody was entering my space. But the key is that we want to be able to make her stop once we tell her it's okay. And we've actually been pretty good at that, like the redirecting Frances when she's barking like crazy, how to tell her it's okay. But it was an interesting dynamic with camping. I just really wasn't sure how she was going to be, but she was great. She loved it. We had a great time. And now we're back. We're back in LA, and the time is ticking, you guys. The time is ticking. It's February. Is it February? It's February 2nd. Is that Groundhog Day? Is today Groundhog Day? Groundhog Day. Groundhog Day 2026. February. Damn, it is. What's the verdict? What's the verdict? What's the verdict, my dudes? Puxatawny Phil. What does he say? He saw his shadow this morning. That means we could see 6 more weeks of winter. Okay. I mean, I know the rest of wherever you guys live. Is it fucking freezing? I checked. My only locations on my phone are like California regions and then New York. And let's see, New York right now, when I checked this, 29 degrees. It was 22 this morning, 29. That is brutal. You guys totally called me out on my Instagram last week. I said something about how my favorite types of sweaters are not sweaters that provide warmth. They're sweaters that are cozy and comfortable. Like I prefer a cotton blend to like a wool blend. And you guys came for me saying that is just because I live in Los Angeles. And you're absolutely right. I'm sure when I move back, when I have my first New York winter next year, I will be craving the wool again. And we'll be rolling my eyes at anybody in LA who talks about the cotton blend sweaters. But I do, just as a material, like my truth is that I don't like itchy things. And wool to me, a lot of the time is itchy. Even 100% cashmere. Like I've even become a little picky about what the cashmere is, because I don't like the way it feels on my skin. I think I prefer sweaters that have a cotton blend in them. And yes, I know maybe I'll want cotton wool, cotton cashmere, but I like the softness. I don't want the itch. But yeah, the move is coming. About the move, somebody asked me what our non-negotiables were when we're choosing a place, and I will answer that. But to preface, we are renting. So we are renting first. We are not buying a house, both because we don't want to financially buy the house yet. 2, we don't want to emotionally make the final decision. We think that we hope that where we're renting, like we suspect that we are going to really like it. It's a place that we're familiar with. And we're treating it as a trial. So I can still answer this question in like a big picture way, but we are renting first. And I feel like that's important to say in talking about all of this. Maybe it's just important for me to say as I reflect on this, like this isn't permanent yet. And I will probably say where we're moving. I know I haven't named it yet, and I've gotten a couple of messages asking like, where have you guys decided? Have you decided? I think I need to talk with Brian a little bit about that. Saying for some reason, like living in a city feels different. Like I can say I live in Los Angeles, but it feels, when I'm moving somewhere that isn't a city, I just have to decide. I have to discuss with him like how it will feel weird not to tell you where we're moving and like not to talk about it and not to talk about the area and the town. I just have to talk with him about that. Feels like there's so much that I share that is just about me, and I get to make my decisions about what I talk about, and I get to make my decisions about what I talk about. But something like that, I'm realizing that like he and I haven't discussed yet how to process that or like how to make a decision about that. And Brian is extremely offline. So sometimes he's extremely offline and he's more private than I am. So sometimes we're not exactly on the same page about certain, it's not even that we're not on the same page about certain things. I can't even actually think about something that we're not on the same page about. I just want to talk with him first is all I'm trying to say. So I apologize if that sounds like I'm cryptic or being withholding. That's not my intention. I just want to make sure that he and I are aligned before. And we haven't actually signed a rental yet. Like we're still in the process of figuring it out. And I'm feeling a little bit superstitious about saying it out loud until it happens. And I think I would feel embarrassed. I think I already would feel embarrassed at this point if our plan didn't work out. But But that's the, I guess, the reality of, sharing my life with you, is that sometimes things won't work out, and I will have to, if I'm feeling embarrassed about it personally, like I will maybe feel embarrassed when I have to share it. Anyway, what are our non-negotiables? Our non-negotiables, we actually have a whole list of it. One of them is that we wanted to move somewhere that still has great restaurants, great culture, access to the things that we are accustomed to in our admittedly very like privileged life. I've lived in Los Angeles, I've lived in Manhattan, I've lived in Brooklyn, and I lived in Ann Arbor when I went to school. Like, these are coastal places. I've had great access to a lot of incredible things, pretty much anything I wanted at my fingertips. We're moving out of the city, so we won't have access to as much, but I love good food, and I'm not really a restaurant snob. Brian and I were talking about this the other day, like whether I'm a snob or not. He says I'm not a snob. I'm not a restaurant snob, because his definition of a snob would be like only like wouldn't eat somewhere inexpensive. And that's not me at all. I will eat anywhere. Love hole in the wall places, love inexpensive, accessible food. But I do have high standards, I guess, of like what I think is good. I just appreciate really good food and really good dining experiences. And I get in a bad mood if I have a meal that is bad. Like, I don't like it when I go out for dinner and the food is mediocre and I've paid a lot of money. So I want to live, and I've gone to visit people and I've been to cities where I felt like every meal I had just kind of sucked. And restaurants and going out to eat is where I get a lot of joy. So one of the non-negotiables really was like access to good restaurants. And call that what you will, like that is a priority to us right now. Access to good food. Driving distance to families. Now, driving distance can mean under a 4-hour drive. Like, I'm not talking about moving 5 minutes down the road from our loved ones. Just not that wasn't the priority. But being able to get in the car and drive was a priority. Things like school district, not a priority for us right now. We care about it. We don't want to move somewhere where it's absolutely terrible. But my thing about school district, and whatever, anybody who's listening who disagrees with me on this, you are welcome to have your opinion. This is my opinion, and my opinion might change if and when I have kids. Where I live right now, I don't need the school district to be perfect or the best ever for a couple of reasons. One, I'm not pregnant. I don't have a kid yet. Two, it's going to be a while before my kid is in school, and like the type of school where the school district really matters. Three, I don't know who my kid is. And this maybe is the most important one. I could have a child that wouldn't do well in like a Scarsdale, and Scarsdale's a town in Westchester. That's an extremely wealthy, privileged town with a great, a top school system, but like a really competitive school system. Maybe my child wouldn't be successful in a school like that. And I want to do, like, if I'm going to be a parent, and I'm sure this is easier said than done, we have our own expectations. You have your own expectations as parents and your dreams for your kid. And I know, I understand all of this, but like, I don't know who my kid is going to be. That school system might not be better, might not be best for them. The school system that's actually a little bit less intense and maybe more artistic and a little bit, I don't know, just different. Not a top 10 school in not top 10 public school in the United States. That might be better for them and their learning. And of course, we'll supplement their learning at home and with after school activities, whatever. And if my kid, like if we live somewhere where the school system is average and we realize, oh, our kid actually is a brainiac, or our kid needs a different type of support, our kid needs more, then we make a different decision. Maybe we move. It's like, why? It seems foolish to me to only make choices based on a school system when we don't know what kid we have. I don't know what my kid's learning needs are going to be. And it seems we don't want to live our life making choices about things that we are not in control of and we don't have the information yet. So we're not, our current choice, like we're not making it through the lens of like, what is the 15-year plan for this like white picket fence, perfect family vision that other people might think we need to have, or our parents might want us to have. Like, we're not doing that. I think our number one non-negotiable, now that I'm thinking about it, is like joy. Like, what decision, what area, what place sparks joy? That is the number one. Like, we want to move somewhere that we both feel excited about. And if we don't feel excited about it, we weren't going to move. Like, we weren't going to do it. We love living in Los Angeles too much to move somewhere that's just about like making the adult decision and settling down. Like, we were not doing that. We're picking somewhere that feels familiar to us, but also new and exciting, and that we genuinely feel like is an exciting adventure. That took us maybe a minute to like come back to that. I think we definitely were battling with like the pressure we feel from other people to like make a permanent decision that our families can be like feel secure about. And this is like the pressure thing is really interesting because even when, and I think we were getting some specific pressure, but we also, you can feel when people want you to make a certain type of choice. And even when you like intellectually know it's not about you, they want you to learn from their mistakes. It's not personal. That's just the best thing. That's just what they know. It's hard to feeling other people's pressure dampers the experience a little bit. And I think for Brian and I, like moving back to the area that we're from inherently comes with pressure. Everybody's really excited to have us back. Everybody wants to know what it means. And even if they're not explicitly saying it, like we feel it. And I think at first we felt like, oh my God, we need to like make all these big decisions and we need to settle down and we need to like check all the boxes and think about things like school system and all of that. And I got great advice. I was talking about this with a friend of mine. And this goes back to what I was talking about a few episodes ago about why it's so important to talk about things that are happening in your relationship with friends, like trusted friends. Brian and I had like a really challenging conversation about some of the moving and financial and just like big decisions coming up. And then I was talking about it with a friend because I was having a hard time with parts of our discussion and I needed somebody else to talk about it with. And she said to me, she's like, Alexandra, you guys don't need to buy a house right now. Like, you don't need to make that decision. And I just want you to remember that. Like, you don't have to do that. And it like changed everything. I went back home and I said that to Brian and it completely changed our perspectives. And again, not the most revelatory, like craziest thing to say. And my friend is able to say that to me because of our relationship and whatever. But it got us to just we didn't realize how much noise was in our head. And sometimes you just need to like snap out of it and get the noise out. So the biggest non-negotiable is the joy and the excitement. And I think, were there any other non-negotiables? There definitely were. We have a whole list, but I feel like that list is even a little outdated because I think we made that list when we were thinking about like buying and we were thinking about like, we want to be in this house for 10 years or whatever, however long. I mean, I guess everybody answers that differently. Like, how long when you buy a house do you want to commit to living there? Or do you want to intend to commit? Is that number getting smaller as there are fewer home buyers? Or I feel like our generation, I shouldn't say ours, we have, this is a multi-generational show. My generation maybe is a little bit more flexible and they see buying houses more as like, oh, we'll buy this now and then we'll sell it. I don't know. I mean, buying a house is crazy. I didn't really understand how mortgages work until we started talking about this. Like, I loosely understood, but I like don't understand people who say that buying a house makes more financial sense. Like, you guys, that's fucking crazy. Maybe it makes more financial sense. Maybe it makes more financial sense when you're extremely liquid and you have a lot of money, but buying a house, you're still paying extremely high rates every month. Like, you're basically paying rent every month in your mortgage, unless you don't take a mortgage, you take a low mortgage. And it sort of feels like buying a home and mortgages is like a complete dupe. Like, you're buying something, but yet you're still essentially paying rent. I know that you buy mortgages because you want to live where you want to live, and we will likely have a mortgage on the house we buy. It's just. So those are our non-negotiables. I am excited to share more and talk about the journey. I do think I will be more explicit and I want to make lots of content around the move. I just want to talk with Brian about the privacy of it all. It's really interesting. Like, a friend of mine and I, just speaking of privacy and social media, a friend of mine has a 1.5-year-old, and she and I were talking about my thoughts about becoming a mom. And I was saying, I will have to make a decision if I have a child about how I want to share that child and talk about that child in my content. And I think I know how I feel, but I don't know for sure how I feel. And I can imagine how it will be hard for me. Like, let's say I'm like, we're never showing our child on the internet. I can imagine how, even if I feel that that is the right decision, I can imagine how that will feel hard. Like, I'm sure I'm going to want to because I'm going to be excited and I'm going to want to share, but then you have to protect your child. And we just had a very interesting discussion about those choices. And I think it's easy to say you know what the right thing is when you're not in the position. But maybe it's like, whatever. I don't actually even want to get into this right now. I'm gonna rewind. That's not a conversation that I actually want to open up, but it is something I'm thinking about. And privacy is just a weird privacy and social media and sharing more about yourself on the internet. Crazy. Which actually leads me to my next thing, which is somebody asked me to reflect a little bit on what Vlogmas was like. Quick reminder, back in December, I did Vlogmas. I made a vlog-ish video every day. Some of them were more vloggy than others. There were certain days definitely where I wouldn't call it phoning it in, but I needed to do something a little bit more simple because I didn't have the time to do the full vlog, but I was really committed to doing the daily exercise. And I think that that is what flexibility is. Like, yes, I committed to doing a vlog every single day, but part of my experience with myself was like, you're going to do a vlog every day, but I'm not going to tell you exactly what that needs to look like. And I think part of flexibility is being like, okay, what do I have? What's my bandwidth today? I know I need to get something done. Like, how can I don't know, how can I just like bend the rules a little bit, which is traditionally something that's hard for me to do as a person who sometimes functions more black and white. I'm either like, I'm going to do it the best I possibly can. It's going to be the best vlog ever where I put all this thought into it, or I don't do it at all. And one of the things it's interesting, like sometimes the stuff that I put way more time into and way more thought into didn't resonate with other people as much as the stuff that I just did kind of quickly, which is an interesting and sometimes frustrating part of making art and sharing your art. It's just funny how that works sometimes. But at the end of the day, like I'm proud of the stuff I make that takes me a long time, even if it doesn't resonate on the internet as much. But it's a really useful lesson in like knowing what the purpose is in the thing you're making. Are you making something because you need like a quick hit and you want to get something out? And maybe you don't need to be as precious then. Or are you making something because you really want to dive into the creative process and you want to think about what you're trying to say? I don't know. But to reflect a little bit more on Vlogmas, I appreciated the question they asked me. They asked what it was like about daily uploads, but also what was it like sharing more of myself that I don't always share in my other content or in the podcast. And one, I'm so grateful for that question and for you to even notice that. I'm grateful for it because that was really part of why it's part of what excites me about that format. And I have realized in reflecting about why I started Hello Haze that I really I've always wanted to share more of myself. Part of my motivation in starting all of this was to talk more about my experiences and share more about my life. And I think I was ashamed of that. Like I thought that was a bad thing, or I thought that was a vapid thing. And over time, before I started Vlogmas and before I even admitted this to myself, I think there were times where I felt really resentful, but all I was, quote, allowed to do was like help other people and talk about other people's things. And I wasn't allowed to share my life. And I think something that I've really been trying to stretch and now grow is like, I'm allowed to do whatever I want to do. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to have the same impact as some of the other work I do right away, or that people will be interested in it right away. But I'm allowed to do whatever I want to do. I'm allowed to do whatever excites me, whatever inspires me, whatever, like, what are these? I made so many rules for myself that didn't need to be there. And I had told myself so many, like, not nice things about certain types of content or certain types of storytelling that really were fueled by probably like jealousy of other people that were doing things that I wanted to do that I had said I wasn't allowed to do, fueled by fear that I was going to fail. But I really like sharing more of myself. And it's interesting to think about why. Like, why do I like sharing more of myself? I really value authentic connection. In my real life, this is my real life too, but in my offline life, it's really hard for me to have like surface level interactions. I can do it a little bit, but I feel like my bullshit meter is like really high or low. I'm really attuned to it. I don't know. I like being able to connect with people and the things in my life and around me on like a very real basis. And I think I want that is how I want to interact with people on the internet too. Like I want to be seen as a real human, not as a robot. And when I reflect back on the beginning of this journey and when I started making Hello Hates videos on TikTok, part of what was really successful, I think, was that I only made Hello Hayes advice columns. So people knew really clearly what to expect. But I inadvertently did create this persona of a person who like had all the answers. And I don't. And I don't actually want to be seen as a person who has all the answers because I think that's a fucking lie. And I know that some people maybe were interested initially in the advice column because of that persona. And I understand that. And I know some people miss that. And it's not that it's not me, but it was a very curated version of my thoughts. And when I only am showing that one side, I felt I was, it's really hard because like this is what successful people do when they make themselves a brand. It felt the way I was approaching it didn't really work for me as I was making myself into like the brand of Hello Hayes when it was so homogeneous and when it was so like, this is what I do. I give advice and I write out a great response that says plenty of things that I do believe. It was hard. It felt hard for me. So doing something like Vlogmas and sharing more of myself in, part 2 of the podcast, these are things that help me take agency back and showing that I'm a real person. Of course, there are ways to interact with my work where you only like the stuff that is more advicey or curated, I guess. But it makes me feel better knowing that you also see the other parts of me. I don't know if I'm explaining any of this well, but that's what Vlogmas showed me. I think it also, something that was great about the daily uploads and like the daily nature of Vlogmas was that it helped snap me out of my thinking that like any one thing I made had to be the best thing ever. It was like a month-long project. And everything I did that month laddered up to the month-long project. So if one video flopped, it didn't matter because it was contributing to a larger goal. And I think something with content creation and just the nature of the internet, and maybe you feel this in your job too, like sometimes you just you're just like feeding a beast. You're like feeding the machine that is your job, and it's hard to see how anything is growing to anything. And that can feel really demoralizing when you're working really hard on all of these little things. So when I spend a lot of time on a video and it doesn't do well, yes, I can enjoy the process and the making, but if every day you're like working really hard on something, if you're only measuring your success by like the single day, I don't know. I think that's how you get emotionally burned out. And it was really helpful for Vlogmas on the days when I felt disappointment, when things that I loved and I thought were really good didn't resonate. I could just be like, it's okay. This is part of the project. And I think that attitude has trickled into the way I made content in January. I do think that I would like to make more videos like the ones I made during Vlogmas. I sort of fell off a little bit in January because they don't come the most natural to me still. And, I did a little goal setting. Towards the end of December, I made like a list of goals for Q1, which is not something that I typically, being extremely strict, like setting a strategy and then holding myself accountable to the strategy is not something I did a lot of last year. Or really the last year and a half. And that's because that wasn't really the main goal of my life. But the goal of my life now, or the goal of this year, like I am ready to be more strategic in my business and my growth and my making money. Like I'm more prepared for that this year than I was last year. And I spent some time, so before the year started, I like made a document. I set a strategy. And yesterday I was reviewing that strategy a little bit. I was reviewing January. Like, what did I do? What did I say I was going to do in January? What did I actually do? What's my growth been like? What can I feel good about? What can I celebrate? What resonated? What worked? And I did not make, like, I didn't do as many Vlogmas-like stuff as I wanted to. And it got me reflecting on how if you want to do something new in your life, like you want to commit to a new behavior, you really need to make a plan for it because you might not naturally do it. Like there's certain types of content that I have become more natural for me. They still might feel hard and they still take quite a lot of effort. Like when I sit down and film, like a friendship take, or I talk about a relationship. Those things still take time for me to think about, but they come much more naturally to me. Sticking the camera up, like easy. Vlogs or like talking about something while I'm doing my skincare, which I do every day, or making my coffee, like those things, I'm not as natural at them. So my brain doesn't think to do them. And then when I start to do them, I stumble a little bit, which is normal when you're learning a new skill. It's completely normal. It doesn't mean that I shouldn't do them. It just means that it's a little harder. But when I look at January and look at my work in January, it's like I did not do as much of the things that I'm not natural at. And I didn't really set enough of a plan. Now, for a person like me who may or may not have ADHD, I say may or may not. My therapist thinks I have ADHD. We do like treat me for ADHD, not with medication, but with some strategies, and those have been really helpful. We talked about doing the testing a little while ago, but it was so expensive. And then I just, honestly, the task of like needing to find a testing thing that was within the price range I wanted to spend, like it was just another fucking task that I didn't want to deal with. Anyway, person who may or may not have ADHD, like my brain planning for you, if it works for you, your way of planning might not work for me. And I've had to really figure out like what does, like creating a monthly content calendar, like doesn't work for me. It might work for you. But I've been trying to figure out like if I do have goals and I want to do some things differently, I can't just write out. I'm really good at writing an incredible strategy. Like I'm really good at that. What's harder though is when you're the person who writes the strategy and has to implement the strategy. How do I make sure that I'm also implementing it? And sometimes there's a disconnect. I mean, anybody who works a normal job with a boss who sets strategy knows this, like how frustrating it is when somebody gives you the strategy and they're like, all right, here's what you guys have to fucking do. And you're like, this is impossible. Did you make this strategy knowing anything about how our team actually works? Who's going to do all of this? I remember feeling that way. And then you just have to figure out how to get it done. And sometimes things don't get done. Well, when you work for yourself, I'm both the person setting the strategy that is sometimes unrealistic and the person who then has to answer to that strategy. Entrepreneurs understand what I'm talking about. All of that's to say, Vlogmas was really fun, and I'm having a lot of fun with content, and I hope it's coming through. And I am appreciative of all of your nice words and your attention. Thank you for your attention. I think that's it for today. I love you all. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for listening to the show. If you could leave it a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast, that's so helpful in getting the word out to new people. As always, you can send me your advice letters at hellohayesbusiness@gmail.com. And I will see you next Tuesday, my loves. I'll see you next Tuesday. Bye.